Hi, it's Gemmalady, and you're probably wondering why I am at the encampment near Cassardus, and that's because I'm here to talk to you about inclination potions and how to use them. So, inside this tent near the Riftstone sits a guy named Jonathan, and he sells you, for rift
This
crystals,
pawn shall assist you to the
inclination
best of my ability, Arisen.
potions.
Choose as you will, sir.
They are located in the tools section, and he has Scather, Mitigant, Mitigator, Challenger, Utilitarian, Guardian, and so on. You can see them all here.
Choose as you will, sir. I am ever at your service.
Now, I use a method called 9573. What does that mean? Well, first let's talk about where you can find your pawn's inclinations. So, when you go to the status in the menu, and then you go down to your pawn's profile, located under basic information are your pawn's inclinations. And in my case, I have Challenger as primary and Scather as secondary for Bearher. Now, what I do is I buy them in these quantities. I buy 9 of what I want for her primary, 7 of what I want for her secondary, 5 of what I want for her third, and 3 of what I want for her fourth. But Gemma, I only see 2. That's because there are 2 that you can see, one that you can't see that's thought to mildly or very slightly affect your pawn's behavior, and a fourth that acts as almost a placeholder. So what I do is I buy a 9 of the primary, 7 of the secondary, 5 of the third that I can't see, and 3 of the placeholder. And then I take them in reverse order, 3, 5, 7, 9, and then I rest. Resting updates the server. It's as simple as that. How can I check what my tertiary is, what that third one is? Well, you can sit in a knowledge chair, and when you do, your pawn will ask you a series of questions. And they will say like, hey Arisen, do you want me to jump off high cliffs or low cliffs? And so choice A or choice B. Choice A generally is their secondary, and choice B generally is the third one. And if you say, well, I want you to jump off low cliffs, for goodness sake, then what will happen is when you step out of that uh, chair, your pawn's third, the one you couldn't see, is now in the secondary slot, and the secondary one will have shifted to the third. But it doesn't affect the primary. Only inclination potions can affect the primary. When do you change inclination potions? Well, when you change your pawn's vocation. For example, you start your pawn off as a fighter, and then they perhaps become a ranger later. Um, it might behoove you at that point to look at your pawn's inclinations and see, gee, do I have the correct inclinations for a ranger pawn? They were a fighter, and they were up close and personal, and they were doing all of these things, but I need my ranger to stand back and shoot her bow as much as possible. And so you've changed the skills, you've changed the augments, and the third piece to that puzzle is changing the inclinations. And so you come here and you buy the potions that you need to do so. So like I said, I use the 9573 method. Other people use the 3333 method. And by that I mean they do the same thing. They buy 3 of the primary, 3 of the secondary, 3 of the tertiary, 3 of the fourth, and then again drink them in reverse order so that the one that's going to be primary is the last one you drink. The one that's going to be secondary is the second to the last one you drink, so you drink them in reverse order, and then you rest. Let's say you're early game and you notice some really disturbing behavior. Your pawn is doing things that you don't want them to do. They're stopping in the middle of fighting and picking everything up, and you're like, hey, what are you doing there? And stuff. Check their inclinations. See if they have not picked up an undesirable trait. And then you can come here, and at that point, because it's so early game, you might just have to just sit in a knowledge chair and simply swap um, the third with the second. See what choices there are. There are some undesirable inclinations. I'm not here to talk to you about those. Um, and there are some other behaviors that happen simply because certain enemies induce certain behaviors in pawns and so on. I'm not here to talk to you about those. Just here to talk to you about how you change your pawn's inclinations. It's here. I highly recommend, when you can afford it, to stock up on your favorite combination of whatever works for you and your pawn. And remember, things that you see in your world with your pawn don't always play out in someone else's worlds or in the multiple worlds, the multiverse of Dragon's Dogma. So you can swear up and down that your pawn is the best giant killer in the entire game, and then they come into my world and they stand there and do nothing. And I send you a message, let's say, and I say, hey, your pawn just stood around doing nothing. What do you mean? Take a look at your pawn's inclinations, because chances are that's where the problem lies. Right there, and it's a simple fix. And yes, it costs rift crystals, but it's a simple problem to fix. So you can do it here. If it's a primary inclination that needs to be fixed, though, you need potions. The knowledge chair won't fix them. It'll only fix the secondary, and that's it. So that's what I wanted to say, just about where you come to buy potions, um, who to buy them from, how to take them, and the fact that you rest after you take them to update the server. Thanks for watching. This has been Gemmalady. Like and subscribe.